Our family's had our 2023 Tesla Model Y all-wheel drive for going on 1 year now and 20,000 miles. So I thought it'd be a great time to do a cost of ownership update. It's also been about 8 months using off-peak charging from this NLX juice box charger. This is leased from our power company. You have to do that to take advantage of their off-peak rates. The standard billing for our utility is a flat rate electricity charge of 13.6 cents a kilowatt hour. If you want to do off-peak charging for your electric vehicle, you have to get a charger through them, unfortunately. The one negative to this charger, you need the NACS adapter. That should be changing in the future, as all automakers have now standardized on the Tesla charger, the NACS. So I'm hopeful that will change in the future. So it makes this a little bit bigger, which on its own isn't that big of a deal. But the nice thing about Tesla chargers is they have a button on them that will automatically open the charge door. So the Tesla integration is just a bit better than sort of this aftermarket charger, but it works just fine. Whenever I pull into the garage, last time for the day, simply plug it in, and then with an app on your phone, you control the settings of that juice box, and it'll automatically start charging at midnight and shut off at 8 a.m. You can also schedule charging through the Tesla app on your phone that talks to the car, or on the screen in the car itself. The reason I tend to use the charger to do it, this is Wi-Fi connected. The power company has access to this, so I just figured it's a little bit more robust if they can see that the charger is scheduled. I don't think that's actually what the power company is looking at, though. I think they're actually using this as a power meter and monitoring the flow of electricity through this particular charger. So I don't think it matters, but that works pretty well, and I've stuck with it. Also, it's going on 7 months after we've taken delivery of our second Tesla Model Y. With 2 of these vehicles at home, I've contemplated if we need a second charger. To lease this is about $20 a month, and I need to add in another 220 volt outlet if that were the case. So I've not done that. I'm able to charge at work during the day, so that has negated the need to have a second charger at home. And typically we end up traveling as a family in the evenings or after school activities. So it's really just one vehicle that normally needs to be charged at night. Worst case, you can do every other, or you can bite the bullet and pay regular rate for electricity and not do off-peak and charge one during the day if you want. So let's get into it. What does it actually cost to own and operate these vehicles on a monthly basis? You can see the total for this bill is $146. In January, it was $183. So a little bit different month to month, depending on how much driving we're doing. And this is for both vehicles, obviously. So we have to look at something different to break it down by vehicle. But now that we've got 2 electric vehicles, this involves both of them. So that lease charger from the power company acts as a separate meter. So it's got a separate meter number here. And it breaks out total electrical use on peak and off peak and mid peak. So you can see the vast majority is off peak, and there's some on peak, mid peak. So did some charging during the day between both of the vehicles when we were doing a lot of driving in one day. Basically stopped home to charge for a bit, or forgot to plug it in one night. That does happen too. So then it charges here. You can see the off-peak, which was the majority of it, is a little bit more than 6 cents a kilowatt hour. And then we've got that flat fee of $20 for leasing of the charger, for a total of $56.91 for the month for both vehicles. At the bottom here is the normal electrical use of the household at $89. Just to give some perspective. So the electrical bill is for both of our Teslas. To go break it down by vehicle, you need to go into the Tesla app, and then you can get the details on each particular vehicle. So this is our white Model Y. We can see the entirety of charging was done at home, assuming that 6 cent per kilowatt hour rate of off-peak. So you could add a few dollars to this for the few kilowatt hours that we did while on peak and mid peak charging. So you could probably add $4 to this or so. And this does not also include the leasing of the charger. So you could add $20 to this. But we've got two vehicles, so you could add 10 to this. For this comparison or cost of ownership, I'm going to just roll that all into this one vehicle, so it's equivalent. We can compare it to gas. The Tesla app does attempt to compare to a gas vehicle, and it says here at the bottom we saved $173. Again, this doesn't include the lease cost of the charger, and this is assuming 25 miles per gallon, which is probably a pretty good estimate for this size vehicle with the performance that it has. To provide a little bit more of a perspective on cost of ownership, I'm going to compare to a gas vehicle and try to capture all those monthly costs that we incur. And first, I want to start out, in my previous video on this, I did make a mistake on insurance. I divided up our insurance premium by 12 months. I should have divided it up by 6. So you can see the change here is reflected. The other thing to note on insurance, I was using Connect by American Family. When it came to renewal time, the rate did jump up quite a bit. In that last period, we did have a windshield replacement, which I did a video on the blue Model Y. So that was one of the reasons, but also just seems like insurance rates in general are going up significantly. So I was able to mitigate some of that increase by going to a different company. The best rates I found for us in this area were Progressive. It saved a significant amount of money every 6 months. I want to say about $300 versus what my insurance went up to. So you can see here per vehicle, full coverage on this is $63 a month. And I rolled in here the electricity cost from the Tesla app, in addition with the leasing of the charger. I also just replaced 2 tires after 20,000 miles and 1 year. The rear tires were very close to wearing out. In addition to that, there was a nail in one of the tires, and so I had to plug it. And it was very close to the sidewall, so I didn't trust the repair. So I went ahead and replaced 2 of those tires. And I did the video on that. I was able to find tires for $100 a piece, and I did the work myself. So this is a really low monthly cost. Basically, I'm assuming $200 every year for tires. The other thing that's increased significantly since the last time I did an update on the cost of ownership is Wisconsin has changed the registration fee. They've tacked on an extra $150 for electric vehicles because we're not buying gas. In our state's gas, there's a road tax on every gallon of gas. So this is a way to get that road tax revenue from electric vehicles. They tack it on your registration every year. So that's something to have to account for. You can see on equivalent gas vehicle that registration is only $7 a month. Bumps up to $22 a month for the electric vehicle. That brings a monthly total of $150. Nice round number. That's just kind of the way it worked out. And this electricity cost is a 6-month average. I went through the last 6 months and averaged that out. We have not supercharged the white Model Y at all. Exclusively charged at home. So if you're going to be on the road a lot and do some supercharging, we can see the electricity rate is significantly higher to charge at a Tesla supercharger versus at home. So that's something you have to account for your particular situation. But this is the actuals last 6 months for this vehicle. And compared to a gas vehicle, you can see it's going to be about double that, driven exclusively by the price of gas. I updated this locally. The average is $3.29 a gallon. Again, keeping with that 25 mile per gallon approximation. Our previous vehicle was a minivan, and we do quite a bit of in-town driving, taking the kids to school and things like that. That in the winter especially would get down to about 17, 18 miles per gallon in town. On the highway, go up to 30, but really combined, I think this is a pretty good approximation. So that savings or difference between the two is about $150 a month. And if we look at the graphs over here on the right side, you can see it's interesting. The energy use in a gas vehicle is about 75% of the monthly cost to operate it. If we go over to the electric vehicle on the right, the insurance takes up a bigger part of that. It's a little bit more, but again, these percentages are just changing around because the energy costs so much more, $219 versus basically $48 for electricity on the electric vehicle. So if that's the combined blue and green here, less than 50% of the monthly ownership is energy. Interesting kind of look at that way, and obviously registration takes up a bigger piece here, but that is part of the blue bar here, really that road tax that we're paying. So you could carve off some of this blue bar for the gas vehicle and assume that's tax also. This is the monthly energy use from the Tesla app for the blue Model Y. You can see it's quite a bit more mixed, with only 38% of the charging being done at home, the majority being done at work under this orange, which has no cost, and then mixed in some supercharger time there also. But the total ends up being about the same, $24 a month, actually a bit less just because of that amount that I can use at work for free. Now, I didn't use this for the cost of ownership, but I just for awareness, not trying to hide anything, but realize most people aren't going to be able to charge at work for nothing. So it doesn't necessarily apply across the board. But here it is, actual $24 a month. You can see again the cost savings here, the equivalent gas for 474 kilowatt hours of electricity would have been about $210. So saying we saved about $186 in February here on the blue Model Y. All right, that is a summary of cost of ownership for me and my family and what it's costing to provide electricity, insurance, and maintenance on our two electric vehicles. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit different for everybody depending on what your electrical rates are. If you're in a home where you can charge at home or you need to use superchargers on the road, something you have to consider, but just wanted to give a point of reference from what I'm experiencing. There's a lot of different headlines out there on those costs, and it's always nice to get some actual numbers from a person instead of propaganda or averages or conjecture. To wrap things up, I thought it'd be interesting to read some of the comments from the first EV cost of ownership video I did. It's been about 10 months ago already, so that was after 2 months. Now it's a year of ownership and getting the off-peak charger. So this was a big update on that. And the first comment, in an 1,820 mile road trip, oddly specific number of miles, you would use a supercharger at least 5 to 6 times. Yes, you would. So I did a video where we went from the upper Midwest in the United States, the Great Lakes region, out to Yellowstone and back was about 3,000 miles. Took the Tesla Model Y. We did have to stop and charge. It can be easily done, incorporated bathroom breaks and eating, dining into that, and it wasn't a big deal. Did add some time. The one thing I'll say, some of those charging locations, where the areas are much less populous in that area of the country, there's not a lot of services around the chargers. Normally there's a gas station, or ideally there's somewhere to eat and go to the bathroom. Makes the trip go by very quick. If there's nothing there, it's kind of slow. So that's one thing. Hopefully time improves that, and businesses build out around those as they recognize they're going to have people there and they can extract money for them as they wait for their car to charge. It goes on to say, I know people making money on YouTube trying to get EV sponsors, but come on, let's stop these lies. No lies. Most people pay $1,200 a year to $1,800 a year for car insurance. Where do you get $400 a year rates? This is a joke. That is fair. I made a mistake on that. I corrected that. But to be fair, I did it for both the electric vehicle and the gas vehicle in that video, so the comparison was still valid. the per month rate was faulty, so I've corrected that in this video. And then another comment, great video, ordered my Model Y all-wheel drive and also selling my current car to Carvana, so I detailed that process. How have your fit, finish, and noise, vibration, harshness been so far? So I did respond to this comment. Congratulations, you're gonna love your Model Y. They're a great vehicle. And fit, finish, I did have one problem with the tailgate rubbing on the taillights, which I've corrected by just turning up the bumpers on the tailgate. And otherwise, fit, finish have been great. Noise, vibration are extremely low. Even with changing the rear tires myself, there's still very low noise, vibration. The suspension is somewhat stiff on the Model Y. It is a sport suspension because the performance acceleration is so high. They need to have suspension that handles that. If you had a really soft, wobbly suspension, it could probably get unsafe. So the suspension is fairly firm, so it's not harsh. It's not like 1990s Mustang harsh, where you go over a bump and the whole car feels like it's going to rattle apart. It's firm, but not harsh. And then another one, I have insurance experience, was wondering how much in safety discounts are on Tesla insurance. So it does have, because this does have accident avoidance and airbags all over the place, it does benefit from insurance companies' safety discounts, pedestrian avoidance, things like that. So it's one thing to check your policy to make sure those are being accounted for. And the other thing is shop around. Like I said, Connect by American Family raised my rates this renewal $300 per car every 6 months. So shopping around, I found that Progressive was only going to be an increase of $100 every 6 months. So between both vehicles, saved about $400 every 6 months. Insurance rates in general are going up. I believe that's driven, it's connected to the average transaction price of vehicles. As you know, everything is becoming more expensive in this inflationary time. So insurance is following along with that, at no surprise. The other sneaky thing you may have noticed, car manufacturers are selling your data to insurance companies. And when you sign up for insurance, you put down an average annual mileage that you're going to drive the vehicle. And that was so I put down a relatively low amount, but we ended up doing a lot of road trips with the vehicles last year, which bumped our mileage significantly up for the year. And so I think that was also one of the things, because in the renewal, it automatically adjusted our annual mileage up significantly. So that's one thing to watch out for. Anytime you go get an oil change, things like that, that place is reporting your mileage, and the insurance companies can get a hold of that information and recalibrate how much you're driving. Because this new generation of car is connected through data, and just because you don't have a Tesla, don't think yours isn't. Pretty much every manufacturer now is connected through cellular and getting data out of your vehicle, and it knows how much mileage you're putting on. And these car manufacturers have found another source of revenue is to sell your data to insurance companies, so they can monitor exactly how many miles you're putting on, where you're going, when you're driving. Do not assume your car is not doing that. So that's one thing. If you get a large increase at your renewal, that may be one reason. There you go. In my scenario, cost of ownership of an electric vehicle is significantly less per month, about half the cost, as a gas vehicle of the equivalent. Is that the reason I went with them? No. As an engineer and an auto enthusiast, after test driving the Teslas, and I think just electric vehicles in general, I don't have a lot of experience with other brands, I had to admit this is just a better mousetrap. It's better. I know there's something primal about harnessing the energy of a flammable liquid, creating controlled explosions inside a metal box to propel you forward, but that seems pretty crude once you get into one of these electric vehicles and there's no noise, no vibration, more power, and you just go down the road silently. It's just better. As manufacturers ramp up, they're also going to get significantly cheaper, more range, faster charge times. That's all coming. And the other thing is, reliability increases. If you dig into some of those reliability pieces, it's more of the software, the user interface pieces that the kinks need to be worked out in. But if we think about an electric motor versus a gasoline engine, an electric motor lives a much easier life. It doesn't have to deal with the open system of pulling in air, creating a combustion, and then getting rid of exhaust gas, and then having oil in the crankcase that can get contaminated with that whole system. The accelerations on the components are much less. It's spinning in a continuous motion instead of reversing and getting very high accelerations when that reciprocation happens. So in general, maintenance, longevity, and reliability of electric vehicles is easily going to surpass anything with an internal combustion engine. It's just going to, if we look at the dynamics there. Obviously, they need to be engineered and manufactured correctly, but the ceiling is much higher for electric vehicles and electric motors versus internal combustion engines. So that is a summary of my real world data. It's variable, I get it. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I don't want to try to tell you what to do. You need to make your own decision, but it's good to have some actual user experience and real data instead of headlines and conjecture. Thanks for watching. Adios.